a world where nuclear war has begun, vampires fought back in super real 3D.
Hey guys, it has been a little while since I've made any videos, and I have a little, this is the beginning of a podcasting setup that I started to do for my art project, Cue the Muses, which is this rock, we're a rock band. We made a sci-fi comedy web show, and in each episode, a new episode is unveiled.
And will they even dare to carry the pain that I felt?
But I've talked about that in previous episodes. That's not what this is about. I've decided that I want to be able to talk about more stuff off the cuff that I think is interesting and valuable information if you're trying to make money making videos for businesses or music videos as well. I will be upfront and saying, as you guys already know, you can in general make more money from companies than you can from independent music video artists. So it's like I do as much as that on the side as I can. But I'm trying to, I have been more booked up with, well, I did make a couple of music videos. So I worked those in, but the majority of my income has been coming in from actual companies hire me to make videos. And what I wanted to share was my information on how I kind of, in the last year and a half to 2 years, I have increased the amount of money that I've been able to make more than I've ever made in the previous years. So how did I, and it's a substantial amount, like not quite double, but not double. I would say like another over half of what I made before. So add that on top. I'm trying to be vague here. I don't want to tell you exactly how much I make. I make 6 figures, let's put it that way. And I'm one person and I make videos for a living. So I'm a happy guy. I got my own studio and I, do everything. And so this, when I say everything, I mean from the getting the gig to the filming to the editing to the color grading to the whole concept to begin with to the interviewing, the lighting, the film, like every part of it. And this is a lot of you guys. Now, what did I do that's different with my pricing structure? Well, for $9.99 a month. No, I'm kidding. I'm just going to tell you what I did. I was before doing a bunch of freelance projects. Still do some freelance projects, but I really have veered over into the direction of wanting to do larger projects where it's not one-off videos with clients and doing more like annual contracts or multi-video projects. Now, that sounds like you probably have heard that before. I'm not going to tell you something that you haven't heard before if you have been researching this, but I will be honest with you and telling you up front what you need to have in your skill set to be able to offer this. And I will tell you what's worked for me and what I do not think this will work for you for if you're in this boat. First off, the only way that you can get into charging like larger chunks of money like this and getting clients to invest in using you for a full year or getting them to invest in projects where you're making like 20 videos for them, not all of them are going to be total long form. Some of those could be 30-second commercials for TV ads. Some of those could be just social spots that are short for reels. And then some of those can be longer form videos where for their website to flesh out content on their website. And things that you need to have in your arsenal to actually be able to do this, because not everyone can do this. If you don't have a decent grip on the concept of marketing, if you're just a video maker that can make pretty images and put together stuff that feels good with music, you're not really going to be able to sell yourself to the company that you're capable of really expanding the income that they have coming in. Like you're not going to increase sales for them if you can't sell yourself. So you really have to have the ability to know how you're going to help the potential client and how you need to be able to market yourself to convince them of that. And a couple of tips that I would say out of the gate is that do understand, let me give you an example of how diverse my clients are. I'm doing stuff for Trans Am Worldwide. So these are car commercials for these crazy supercars that sell for anywhere from $150,000 to $300,000. Okay, so that's like a wild thing. I live in Tallahassee, Florida, by the way. and I'm an example of how you can do pretty good for yourself being even in a smaller town, especially if there's not that many video options. You can really just take this all the way rather than being a small fish in a big pond going out to some big city and trying to compete on that level and having to use unions and all kinds of red tape and stuff. A lot of you guys are in rural cities, small areas, and you're like wondering, is there enough business around for me to be able to turn this into something that's going to be profitable for me, and am I going to be able to generate enough work? And I'm here to tell you that I think you can, but these are the steps that you need to take. So you need to be able to market yourself to them and tell them how they're going to expand their company. That's a bit of a tangent there. I have Trans Am. Then I've also got something like Baby Quip. This is a company that rents baby equipment across the country. So wherever you go, there's a high chance, especially if it's a city, that there's going to be a Baby Quip provider available there. And through this company, this website, they can hook you up with people that are quality providers for that company, and they'll come out and bring baby gear that you've rented. And this is really blowing up. They have at the time that I made the videos, they had 30,000 5-star reviews on Google. So that's pretty big already, just as far as saturation. And a lot of reviews and stuff like that. Then I've got something like Voter Registration Systems, VR Systems. That's really the name of them, and that stands for voter registration. And they only handle the registration part. It's not anything to do with the actual voting, thank God, because I kind of don't want to be responsible for getting tied into that. And so they make election hardware and software for elections, in particular in Florida is where they got their start, and they sell all across the entire. In fact, they are the provider of hardware and the entire voter database for all of Florida, and then they have moved into other states as well. So it is a national company. And then I could go on. There's a couple of other ones, but my point is that that's pretty different. You got elections, you got baby equipment, you got selling cars, and I'm somebody that actually drives a minivan. And if I had the money, I would buy a newer, fancy minivan. When I say if I had the money, it's because I keep spending my money on video gear, and there's just other priorities that I have because my van's still running and I'll ride it till it dies. So I'm not a big car fiend, but here I am trying to make videos that sell cars. I'm trying to sell baby equipment, and I'm trying to help sell election hardware and software. So how do you step into each of those arenas? Well, that's what I'm saying is you have to understand marketing in general. And when you first start talking to a potential client, you have to explain to them that you want to know a lot more about their business, that you want to have a meeting with them in person, and you want to actually sit down and understand who their demographic is, where are they trying to use the videos, what types of videos are they initially interested in, and help generate ideas for them as like a creative content consultant. In fact, that's a term that I put on my website to just help guide people when they look at my website, a potential client, they understand that I'm not just going to make a video, that I'm actually going to help them come up and strategize ideas for content that's going to be good for them. And that doesn't, the whole template formula just doesn't apply here. This is all about trying to be super specific and customize a special offering for them. So when you're going to offer a large annual contract or some multi-video thing, this is not going to be a universal package that you can then offer to each client that approaches you. I mean, you'll start getting more of a barometer of what you can charge and how to how to understand people's budgets, which I'll give you a tip on that in a second. But ultimately, each one of these packages or these offerings of whether it be multi-videos or it's something that's spread across the year, is going to be completely customized and tailored for this client. You're really working to try and get this large contract. So it's a little scary when you're passing up freelance gigs that are coming left and right, trying to bank on something that's a bigger gig. But it's not just about making more money. It is about being able to provide better products, better quality end videos for your client. Because if the budget's there, you can do more. And that's the thing about the freelance projects, is that you can't think as big picture as you'd like. A lot of times what'll happen is you'll get a freelance project for a client, you make that project, and they may love it, and then they want to do another one, then you do another one. And then gradually you've kind of built up a library of footage, and then you realize maybe we can repurpose some of this other stuff from before, and we can put it here. But imagine if you know out of the gate that, we are embarking on a journey that we're going to do this for the whole year, or we're going to make 10 videos or something like that. Then every time you go film, you already know ahead of time that you're filming for multi-purpose, so you can start mapping that out. And clients really, really like that. You're maximizing their budget to help make them more videos, and you're coming out of it with more direct content for purposes that you already know that you're going to stem it out to, for these different video mediums and different social platforms, and whether it's going on the website or TV. So your headspace is already thinking big picture. So when you go out to film one thing, you know that you also, let's say you're doing an interview, you're asking questions for a video that's going to come at the end of the year already up front. If you've really started to investigate this company and understand what to be offering them. So through that meeting, you're gaining trust. They love hearing these questions, and this isn't in any way a manipulation. This is a way that you can approach your projects. So you're getting to increase your skill set and come out of it with actually effective videos. Because if you just assume that you can slap a price onto every project that you offer, a commercial client's commercial, it's X amount. That's kind of a beginner thing mentality to do, because you don't know how to price your projects yet. So this is a little bit more advanced. This is hard to jump into. If you don't have a portfolio online, this is like enough videos that are examples, even if they're not of the same genre, but just examples of what you do and how you can get to what your style is that's coming out in the types of videos that you're making. Then you're not going to be able to pitch this yet. But once you do have that portfolio, which I've had for quite some time, you can go this route. And wish I had moved to this route sooner, because I've been able to increase. There's a few pros with this. One, I've increased the amount of money that I'm making over the last couple of years substantially. Like another, imagine if your bonus was over half of what you were making before, and you'd been kind of in a, kind of plateaued for about 3 years on what you thought you could make locally, right? And then you figure out this other pricing formula, this way to discuss things with clients, get these larger productions. Now you're making that much more money, but you're also at the same time finally getting to see and have some concept of how much money you're going to make this year, and you're able to budget out your schedule better, because that's a nightmare, right? Like the whole freelancing aspect. I'm not saying that scheduling is not still going to be difficult when you're riding the wave of when something's happening for a client, but when you've consolidated down from 8 or 10 or 12 different projects or 15 different projects over the year, and you're really just isolated in on, let's say, 3 or 4 clients, and you have a running conversation with them, and you're plotting these things out, the scheduling has been a lot better this last year and a half. The reason I had to do 7-day work weeks for 7 months is because I started a really large contract with a new client, and basically previous clients are ones that I adapted into this price model, and the newer client had to start a brand new library of footage, which is a lot more upfront work, even though it's a year contract. That is something to keep in mind. If going guns a-blazing, if you were able to secure even 2 large contracts like this out of the gate on the front end to get that initial library of footage, if you want really versatile videos that have a lot of different imagery to it, that's going to involve more days up front of filming or more interviews up front, you're going to have to do a lot of that up front to get that base set up for that client that's hopefully going to be a client for you in these small towns, for years to come. I mean, it could be a big city too. I'm just giving the example of my personal circumstances that, Tallahassee and Hull, I think we're around 350 or 450,000 people. What's confusing about that is we have 4 colleges, and there's a lot of transient people, but those aren't really my clients. So I would say the actual people that live here that aren't transient like that is around 350, but with surrounding areas, we get closer to 800,000-esque, So this isn't like a huge place. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent. Sorry. Let's see here. I've covered the idea that it's packages. Okay. Actually, I haven't really explained that. So the way that I've been doing that is offering these annual contracts and stuff, is offering 3 different packages to each client. And they're at different price tiers, and they offer different amounts. The more they pay, basically the more that they're going to get for a cheaper amount, right? It's just like buying a big pallet of stuff at wholesale. You're going to pay less. And that's fine, but once you get these budgets up to this level, you're happy to let them move up to a next tier and give them, they're ultimately, actually, technically, if you were going to map this out on hour, you'll make less per hour the bigger project that they choose. But to have that much job security and that large of a contract up front, it's worth it to you. That's a fair trade. That's what they get if they're willing to put that much money up front. How do you figure out where to start with that budget? That, again, depends on your skill set. You need to be able to market yourself. You need to have a portfolio, and you need to be able to know that you're worth the amount that you're going to throw out there. You can't just throw out a big number if you don't have the work to back it up. What I personally go ahead at this point, what I tell people is, first off, I ask what their budget is. I'm like, what budget for video this year are you trying to work with? What are we working within, so I can come up with a custom tailored package for what I can do for you, and let them throw out the first number. That does not always work. They may not, but they might. A lot of times they do. I would say it's 50-50 so far in my exploration of this. If they don't, my next step is I go ahead and figure out how serious this client is, because a lot of people might start talking. You're 30 minutes in to a conversation and it is going amazing, and then you realize that they've only got a budget of a few $1,000s and they're talking about doing what would be a year worth of work already. So it's like, let's go ahead and get a certain number established. For me personally, the point that I'm at, if they will not give me a number for their budget to begin with, I go and just tell them up front, well, in general, when I'm working with clients now, $15,000 to $20,000 is the starting point for a budget to work with, and we start exploring options from there. You have to stay silent after that and wait to see what they say. Sometimes they might respond right away and just simply say, okay, well, yeah, I'd like to, that's fine. And that, then you go from there, and then you kind of, that'll be your bottom package, and then you can offer 2 packages past that if you know that they're already willing to say that. And they might say that that's way more than they were thinking. And at that point, this is up to you financially, what you're willing to do. You can work down from there, but at least you already you definitely want your number to be something that could qualify for this kind of package thing. Keep in mind, this would be something you do over the course of the year, potentially, or if it's multiple videos like that, this is going to be a huge time suck for you. So that's not a crazy number for a company that's legitimately starting up and needing to get more video content or upgrade their video content, especially then. If they're there and they're upgrading from previous content that they've already had, starting at that price point, which again, ask them first what their budget is before you offer that, because their budget might be more than that, considerably more than that. But if they're upgrading already, in my opinion, that puts them in a category that they're going to be able to afford more. They've already paid a lower amount. They know that they need better content, and so they'll go from there. And better content, this is where the marketing part comes in. Better content is not just prettier images. Better content is not just a shorter, snappier video. Better content is like a better message, something that represents them in a much stronger way, in addition to better audio and better sound mixing and better storytelling, whatever the type of video is that you're doing. For me and a lot of people, the interviews, like the mini doc style setup for a company, is still extremely powerful. And I think it's always going to be powerful because it's the opportunity for any potential client for that company to get an actual sense of what these people are like and what their ethics are and how much work goes in to what they're doing. So they're basically, these are the experts in their field, and that's super powerful. Like, people, when they call up the company and they get to talk directly to people that they saw and heard speak in the videos, there's already this level of trust there, and it's like, and there's a connection there where it's like there's not a disconnect. You're talking directly to the people that you've helped. Glorify is not the right word per se, but you've shown them in the best light possible. And that's up to you as the editor. If you just let conversations run the same way that I am doing right now, then you're a bad editor. This is me doing a video on the side real quick because I like talking about this stuff and I think that you could find it of value, but I'm not editing this like my professional content. This is not really an edit. Even if I chop out something, if you catch a cut in this is not a professional edit job. You need to put together stories and weave together multiple interviews to make singular statements so it sounds like everybody's on the same page. There's momentum to the video. And the things that I'm explaining like that, like you want to tell your potential client that when you're pitching, like so they understand that there's this much effort going into the project that you're going to do for them. So yeah, that's been a huge difference. So I highly recommend veering away from the one-off projects. You can still do them, obviously do them and as filler while you're trying to get the big ones, but don't get yourself in a, if you do want to pursue this and you think that you've checked the mark for being able to do this kind of price model, one, you know that your work is good. Two, you've got a portfolio to prove it so the client knows exactly what they're getting, and you've done enough projects so they have security in it. And three, you actually understand and like marketing. Like this isn't like, if this is painstaking for you to have to learn about marketing to get the gig, then you should probably pursue something else with your video work, because the only way that you're really going to be successful for companies with video work is if you like marketing to an extent. Otherwise, you're just going to follow some template thing. I mean, you'll get the projects, but you're going to hit a barrier where there's not, like, clients aren't going to seek you out. You're not going to be able to charge more for the style that you put on it because you don't have any style. You're just executing point A, point B. You're doing a bullet list of what you think needs to be covered topically. That's very, very different than how I approach projects. And I feel strongly if that's the way I approached everything, that I wouldn't be at the price tier that I'm at with clients. I'm very, very, very adamant about trying to make my interviews that I do for clients feel genuine, and it's never scripted, and it's an actual conversation that I had with them. But I cut it up like hell, like I cut it up so much and cover up so much with B-roll and smooth it out. I give a lot of effort to that audio to make sure that it's the right mix with the music, but also that you can't tell where the cuts are for the most part. You can if you listen with a really keen editor ear. I'm sure you can find stuff, but in general, in passing, this stuff just feels real and feels good. Everyone sounds great, which is more than just taking out the ums and ahs. It's like restructuring oftentimes how they said something by stitching together a statement that they might have said earlier with a statement they said later and trying to make that sound the same, and all that's like it's all one running sentence. That takes a lot of seasoning. So if you're in that boat, which a lot of you guys are, man, try offering these packages and get them to think you want to approach their whole company big picture style rather than these one-off videos. You can do a lot more. We can be thinking ahead. And included in that package is conversation, access to meetings, talking with them, and build that into your budget. When you're pitching the price for this, don't just map out how many technical hours you think it will take you to accomplish, filming that day and then editing this type of video. Like, build into the budget that you're available for meetings and access when, they need to discuss something that's coming up, that you're not charging additional for meetings, that you're not charging additional for rescheduling a shoot, that you're going to pretty much be available. And if they're a decent client, they'll be flexible on the end of understanding if something's too last minute to do and that you're already booked up with your other client. And then there's the balancing act of not overbooking yourself and double scheduling. But I'm telling you, it's a lot easier to do that with these longer running contracts and multi-video projects for clients than it seems to have been for freelancing for the last 15 years. So I like this a lot. And I wish you guys the best in it. And if you want to ask any questions in the comments, please do. I think that's it. This little podcasting setup, this is not traditionally how I do these types of videos on my channel, but I haven't gotten to make a video for my channel in quite some time. So I'd like to be able to just pop this thing on and talk a little bit more regularly. So hopefully you dig it. That's what's up for now. I'm working on my Key the Muses project heavily this summer, and then maybe after that I can do like full-on episodes with edits and stuff like that. But I will be talking about like filming technique stuff. I want to talk some about all this AI stuff that's going on, how I think it's going to affect jobs in the creative sector and videos in particular, video production in particular. Got a lot of opinions about that. There's a lot of things constantly going on in the camera world and with editing and things that I could throw out in this format. So anyway, hopefully you found that of value. throw me a question if you have it. And I appreciate you checking it out if you're interested in this, because I like talking about it. So give me the excuse to talk about it more. All right, guys. Peace.
Movie Voice.